Well, yesterday it rained on and off all day. There were a few nice spells. And I thought, nah, as soon as I get outside, it'll rain. So I'll wait for tomorrow. And now I'm beginning to regret that decision because it's proper raining today. I've even got my wellies on. First time this year. That's a sure sign that the wet weather's coming. But hey, gotta take the rough with the smooth. I do sometimes find it difficult to get motivation to come out when it's this weather. But usually, once I've been out for a bit, I sort of get over it. Right. There we go. Let's see what's in store for us today. It can sometimes be difficult to know what best to do when it's like this, because there's no doubt about it, I'm going to get proper wet. Well, Mrs. K wants a few beans, so that's on my list, and she wants me to bring some onions over, so we'll be going in there. In the meantime, we seem to have a low-flying helicopter. Well, as always, first on my list is the chickens. I've got a little bit of scraps here for them. They always know when I've come through the gate. What's going on, girls? Well, the silky hens don't have the natural oils in their feathers, so rain is not really very good for them. But will they stay in? Nah. Whereas the other hens, they don't mind a bit of rain. In fact, I think they enjoy it. Well, the good thing about the polytunnel, it does afford you a bit of protection, and getting these onions ready to take home is one of the drier tasks I'll be doing today. So, how many? Probably 3 or 4, I think. They seem to be storing okay in here. We just need to be careful that when the frost comes, they'll certainly need to move to somewhere drier, and a little bit warmer. Well, a lot of people had comments to make about the onions that I've sort of replanted as they were left over from this year's seeds. And some people have said they'll be absolutely fine. Others have said they'll run to seed next year. And, well, probably be a mix of both, I suspect. But they seem to be okay. I'll show you how they're looking this morning after just a couple of days. So the smaller ones have perked up and their leaves are sticking up in the air, which is a good thing. And the others, pretty much as I left them. It's going to be a long project, this one, I think. It'll just be interesting to keep tabs on them, see how they go. Well, earlier on in the year, in fact, right back in the spring and the sowing period, you may remember I grew a few auriculas and primulas, those sort of plants, and well, most of them struggled to germinate. Some of them I succeeded with. I potted a few up and I took them over the house, and they didn't really like the location I put them in, and it wasn't long before they were either eaten by slugs or actually dried out in one case. So I was pretty pleased when I opened up the polytunnel the other morning to see that the ones that I put in the polytunnel were beginning to thrive, and this is them. So it's an irony that I planted quite a lot of seed and I end up with only 1 or 2 healthy plants because there's a couple in there. But this is the gold laced red variety, and well, you don't want hundreds and hundreds of these things, so I'm pleased that something came of it, and I'll take that back over the house today, where most of the polyanthus and the primulas are doing really well. Well, we had some pretty fierce wind the other night. It didn't seem to bother this structure. So next year is probably going to be its first test because that wind wasn't particularly fierce. So the beans are still doing okay. There's 1 or 2 really rough ones in here, and I think they're going to be the ones I pick for seed. But there's also an awful lot of really fantastic, soft and supple beans. So we're still picking like mad. And what are we? Right at the end of September. So this is one of those high value crops. I really recommend people trying to grow vegetables, grow a few green beans, because they're delicious, they freeze well, and certainly in a year like this, they do not produce some volume. Let me just show you these 2 clusters. Amazing. I know you've noticed that I've been avoiding doing the outside work, but I can't avoid it any longer. So what I'm going to do this morning is strip at least that first run of courgette and pumpkin leaves. Trying to do some of the surface jobs today is probably the best thing. So I'll have a look and reveal what we've got in this bed. So in the interest of not damaging any of these pumpkins, I'm going to clip them off before I pull all the leaves around, and we'll set them to one side and I'll show you them when we're done. I don't think there's any more growth in these, and they're just curing. And last night we had a fairly cold night, and I'm starting to think I don't want them to get damaged in any way. These smaller ones could be prone to some slug attacks, and there's quite a lot of slugs and snails in here. There's 1 or 2 fairly substantial ones in here, and they're changing colour, so they've not finished their curing process, but I might just pull them in and out during the better days to finish that off. Right, I'll carry on removing these pumpkins and then I get onto the leaves. There we go. That's pretty much a full cycle of a year. The squash are out, and the next job on this bed will be when I pull the black membrane back and take some of my well rotted compost, which I've been cooking all summer, and layer it over the top just to rejuvenate the soil ready for next season. And as I was doing that, I found a few squash that I hadn't seen before, which is always fun. And I can show you what happens if the softer ones get left too much longer, and this one's been well and truly snaffled by the emerging slugs that have a bit of a spurt right now and can attack quite a lot. In fact, you can see one in there. So with those smaller ones, I think it was the best thing. It's always a bit of a shall I or shan't I with squash and pumpkins, but these will be next. As you can see, the leaves are really dying back on these small sugar, and they're still okay on the others at the moment, so I'll leave them just a little bit longer, and fingers crossed they won't come to any harm. Well, that's one squash and pumpkin bed's worth of fruit, and I'm pretty pleased with that. These were always going to be the smaller varieties, although this strawberry crown I think probably does get bigger, but they're a good size for us, because when there's two people eating a meal and you cut into one of these, of course you can puree and freeze them, but we like them roasted as well, done in the oven with plenty of good fillings, and these are just the perfect size for that. And these smaller ones are really like a one-person meal. So this is green Hokkaido, and there's 2, 4, 6, 8 of those and 3 of the strawberry crown. So, well, it's been bucketing down out there, so I've got to just summon up the energy and the enthusiasm to go out and do the next outdoor job. Now's the time. So I'm going to put these leaves onto the compost heap. They'll make good compost in time. And then, well, the wind has been picking up and I've started to get quite a few fallers. So now's the time to strip this tree of the fruit that's on it, and we'll be peeling and stewing apple. A few pies, I hope. Well, nothing for it. Let's get this out of the way. So these apples have got blemishes on them, which is pretty customary for this type of apple. It's really not an eater, it's much more a cooker. I think it's called Green Rocket, and it certainly produces a fair amount of fruit. We've been picking these now for a good couple of years and making plenty of food to go in the freezer. So it's going to be a wet and horrible job, but it's got to be done. We don't want to waste any of the apples that this tree has spent all year creating. Right, onward. Well, I think that's it. That's a pretty good haul of apples. And let me show you a couple of these. Pretty good sized apples. Might even get to eating one of those as an eater. It's got a bit of colour on it, but basically for cooking. And there's a good few pies and stewed apple portions there. Good times. Well, I think I'm going to take my haul home. I've got some nice vegetables for cooking and quite a lot of apples for preparing. Well, I think that's me done on the plot for today. It's a bit wet and I think I've given it a good bash. So until next time on the plot, I'll see you later. Well, there's a news flash just in. I gave a call to my local garden centre. Not that local actually. It's about 5 miles away, I suppose, maybe a little bit more. But it's the only garden centre that I know that actually has loose garlic, where you pick the varieties that you like and you pick the individual bulb that you like as well. So that's good news, and I'm on my way. And I did give them a call just to say, would you mind if I filmed my pickup of the garlic? Because, well, I'm on YouTube and people would be interested. And they said yes. So I'll show you when I get there. Well, we're arriving at the garden centre in Abergavenny, and you may well see off in the distance there Sugarloaf Mountain. There we are, I think it's coming into view. And we're just around the corner now. I'm going to arrive and have a look and see what garlic is in stock. And I know this came in just yesterday, so we should see the full variety. Still pretty much a requirement to wear masks in Wales, so that's what I'm doing. So let's go have a look round. This is a particularly nice garden centre, taking all the necessary COVID precautions, and they usually have some winter vegetables available, which I tend to have a look at, but I can't see them today. Some really good quality plants here though. These fantastic hebes. So let's have a look round. And this garden centre, like most, is mainly flowers. Here's some vegetables. What have we got? Veg strips, $2.25, 5 for £10. So if you haven't got your seeds in for your lettuce in your polytunnel, I guess this is the way forward. And we've got quite a few herbs available here as well, which is always nice to see. They're that much stronger for selling to the public this time of year. A bit more seasonal. Right, let's go inside and have a look what the garlic looks like. There's an amazing array of bulbs here, and this is the time of year for getting your bulbs in. They've been in a little while. I've been here recently, and you can see how popular they are, selling out in places, but great display of varieties for you to choose from. So let's get to the garlic and see what we've got. Wow, that's a fantastic variety of garlic to choose from. And what's the approach here? It looks like you help yourself with a paper bag. So we'll get one ready. And this year, unlike previous years, I'm going to do my level best not to mix them up, so I know what varieties are what. So what have we got? garlic Picardy white, Kingsland white, Provence white, Elephant, sounds good, early, extra early white, Coke white, Rhapsody white, and Solent white. And as you can gather, most of these are probably grown in the Isle of Wight, which is renowned for its garlic production, and this particular strain. So I've got quite a few places to sow. Now, as you know, I'm going to put some into the polytunnel around the edges. Some is going to go into the experimental bed that we've had white rot in, and the third are going to go into pots. So it's just a case now of choosing which varieties are best for which. So I think we're going to have something that's early, and these are really nice firm bulbs, and just going to pick myself a decent one. I think that one will do, and get that one in. Now what I do need is a pen or a pencil so I can mark these up. I'll be right back. Okay, so this one is extra early, and I'm going to remember the white bit of it. So next bag, I think we'll probably put those in the polytunnel, because I know that we want to get those out fairly quickly. So I think I'm going to have 2 of those, and then into the experimental bed. Let's see, I think we'll go for this purple one, Rhapsody. So we're going to put Rhapsody on there. And then I've got to pick something to go in pots, and this I think is going to be the vast majority of what I grow in the way of garlic. So we're going to try this Kingsland white, and it is a bit random. What I don't know is which varieties are the hard neck and which are the soft neck, but to be honest with you, I've never had a problem with either, so I'm not too precious about it. So that's Kingsland, and then finally I think we're going to go for Solent, and Solent is where I'm from, in Hampshire. You might not have noticed, but I don't have a Welsh accent, and I'm going to have 3 of those. So that one's going to be Solent. Right, I think we're done. Okay, job done. So off to the car and get on my way home. Well, you have to chuckle. I've recorded this outro about 3 times and left the microphone in my jacket, so you wouldn't have heard a word. Thought I'd learned by now. There we are. Well, I've secured my garlic. That's next year sorted for garlic. Isn't it amazing how we plan a year and we start in September the year before? Got a plan for a good garden. Well, the garden centre was fantastic. The people were really helpful, friendly, and they had a great selection of plants and, more importantly, a great selection of garlic. So that was great. Well, if you like my videos, then why not subscribe and like? And if you want notifications of when I upload, then click the bell as well. I upload every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 PM, and I'd love to have you along on the journey. Good times.